The air was still and damp. The pressure was gentle, holding steady at 82 millibars. The humidity clung to everything, a soft, grey blanket. The wind, barely a whisper, moved through the tall grasses with a slow, sighing rhythm. The temperature was a comfortable 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and it felt like 62, a gentle coolness that settled over the valley. In a small, moss-covered clearing, nestled amongst the roots of a very old willow tree, lived a Wyoming toad. He was a quiet toad, a toad of simple pleasures. His skin was a mottled gray and brown, blending perfectly with the earth. He spent his days mostly still, absorbing the warmth of the sun on his back, and his nights listening to the sounds of the valley, the rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of the river, the drowsy hum of bees. He began his day, as he always did, with a slow blink. It was a very deliberate blink, a blink that took a full 7 seconds, stretching out the moment before it closed. He opened his eyes, a dark, reflective black, and looked around. The clearing was just as he'd left it, a few scattered pebbles, a patch of bright green moss, and the delicate scent of damp earth. He began to stretch. It wasn't a vigorous stretch, not at all. It was a slow, languid movement, extending his legs, flexing his toes, reaching out with his little webbed feet. He stayed like this for a long time, feeling the coolness of the earth beneath him, the gentle moisture on his skin. Then he began to explore. He moved very slowly, shuffling forward, back, left, right. Each movement was measured, deliberate. He examined a small, smooth stone, turning it over in his tiny hands. He felt its coolness against his skin. He watched a single drop of water clinging to a blade of grass, shimmering in the diffused sunlight. He didn't try to catch it, he simply observed it. He moved to the edge of the clearing and looked out over the valley. It was a vast expanse of green, rolling hills covered in wild flowers, a sparkling river winding its way through the landscape, and distant mountains shrouded in mist. There were sheep grazing peacefully in the fields, and a family of deer drinking from the river. Everything was still and calm, bathed in the soft, grey light. He spent a long time just looking, letting his gaze drift across the landscape. He noticed the patterns in the clouds, the way the light changed as they moved across the sky. He felt a sense of peace, a quiet contentment. As the sun climbed higher, he found a patch of warm earth beneath the willow tree. He settled down and began to absorb the warmth. It was a simple pleasure, a feeling of being grounded, of being connected to the earth. He continued to absorb the warmth for a long time, occasionally shifting his position slightly to ensure that he was getting the best possible exposure. He didn't hurry, he didn't fidget. He simply existed, present in the moment. After a while, he noticed a small brown beetle crawling across his back. He didn't try to move, didn't try to shoo it away. He simply watched as it explored his skin, its tiny legs moving with a delicate precision. The beetle seemed to enjoy the warmth, pausing occasionally to rest on his back. The sun continued to climb, and the warmth intensified. He felt a pleasant drowsiness creeping over him. It wasn't an unpleasant drowsiness, not a restless kind. It was a gentle, soothing feeling, like sinking into a soft, warm bed. He began to slow his breathing. It was a slow, regular rhythm in 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. He focused on his breath, letting it fill his lungs, and then slowly release. With each breath, he felt himself becoming more relaxed, more still. He noticed a small puddle of rainwater had formed in a hollow beneath the willow tree. It reflected the grey sky, creating a miniature world of shimmering light. He watched the ripples spread across the water's surface, fascinated by the way the light danced. The sun began its slow descent, casting long, soft shadows across the valley. The temperature began to cool, and the air grew even more still. He moved slightly, seeking a spot where he could best absorb the last vestiges of warmth. He began to gather small pebbles, arranging them in a neat circle around himself. He didn't have a particular reason for doing this. It was simply something he felt like doing. He collected smooth, gray pebbles, carefully selecting each one for its coolness and texture. He spent a long time observing the pebbles, turning them over in his hands, feeling their weight, their smoothness. He arranged them with meticulous care, creating a small, peaceful space round himself. The light faded further, and the valley grew darker. The sounds of the valley became more noticeable, the rustle of leaves, a distant murmur of the river, the hoot of an owl in the distance. He listened to these sounds with a quiet appreciation, letting them wash over him. He continued to arrange his pebbles, adding more and more to the circle. He didn't try to make it perfect. He simply enjoyed the act of collecting and arranging. He noticed a family of rabbits had settled down for the night in a nearby burrow. He didn't try to disturb them. He simply observed them quietly. They were curled up together, sleeping peacefully. He began to slow his breathing even further, deepening his rhythm in 4, 6, 8 out, 6, 4, 2. He focused on the feeling of his skin, the coolness of the air, the gentle rhythm of his breath. He noticed a single firefly had appeared, blinking its light intermittently in the darkness. The light was a small, flickering beacon, a tiny spark of magic in the vastness of the valley. He watched it with a quiet sense of wonder. He continued to slow his breathing, allowing his body to become more and more relaxed. He felt himself sinking deeper and deeper into a state of peace and tranquility. He focused on the feeling of the earth beneath him, the cool air on his skin, the gentle rhythm of his breath. He let go of all thoughts and worries, simply allowing himself to be present in the moment. He noticed a small spider had begun to spin a web between two blades of grass. He watched as it meticulously built its intricate structure strand by strand. The web shimmered in the darkness, a delicate work of art. He continued to slow his breathing, deepening his rhythm even further in 6, 8, 10 out, 10, 8, 6. He felt his body becoming heavy, relaxed, and still. He noticed a small group of bats had emerged from their roosts, circling silently above the valley. Their wings made a soft, almost inaudible sound as they flew. He watched them with a quiet sense of fascination. He continued to slow his breathing, allowing his body to become more and more relaxed, more and more still. He felt himself drifting away into a state of deep peace and tranquility. He focused on the feeling of his skin, the coolness of the air, the gentle rhythm of his breath. He let go of all thoughts and worries, simply allowing himself to be present in the moment. He noticed a single dewdrop clung to a blade of grass, shimmering in the darkness. The dewdrop reflected the faint light, creating a tiny, perfect sphere of water. He watched it with a quiet sense of wonder. He continued to slow his breathing, allowing his body to become more and more relaxed, more and more still. He felt himself sinking deeper and deeper into a state of profound peace and tranquility. He focused on the feeling of his skin, the coolness of the air, the gentle rhythm of his breath. He let go of all thoughts and worries, simply allowing himself to be present in the moment. The valley was silent, save for the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of the river. He was completely still, perfectly content, and as he drifted further and further into sleep, he knew that he was safe. He was warm, he was peaceful. The world around him was calm, quiet, and still. And he was perfectly, wonderfully at peace. The end.